We're going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here we come. Fats Domino sang it, standing on the corner at 12th and Vine today. Sporting KC fans are living the playoffs in the flesh for the first time since they won MLS Cup all the way back in 2013. Happy Soccer Sunday, everybody. The Audi 2018 MLS Cup playoffs are back. Welcome to the MLS studios here in New York City. The gang is all here, and we'll get you ready for this postseason triple header as we trim the playoff field from 7 teams to 4. Introductions in just 1 second. But before we get any farther, I want to wish a happy Veterans Day to all those who have served out there watching right now or not watching. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for starting your day and spending your day right here with us talking soccer. All right, let's get to it. The new face on the set, another World Cup winner, Ali Krieger. Thank you so much for joining us, Ali. I would go through your accomplishments here, but we got to get to the games. What are you looking for today?
I'm just excited to see this playoff picture kind of play out in the second set of games. And today is, obviously 3 big games. And watching the first round was pretty incredible, pretty intense. And I don't know. I think now it's kind of up in the air. They were all close games, really good atmospheres in every stadium. And so it's just an exciting time for MLS.
A lot to live up to after that Portland-Seattle match, right, Alex?
Yeah,
I think I made this motion a couple times because it was a mind blower. Maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll be talking about one of those after this. Kaylin, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm excited for this Atlanta NYCFC game. 2 big clubs with big aspirations, but haven't been able to get it done in the playoffs as of yet. One of them will advance to the conference championship round for the first time. So that's the game I've got my eye on.
I can't even think about soccer. I can't believe you pulled off the Fats Domino to open that show, Andrew. That was so good.
I rehearsed it a couple times. I'll give Cameron Weeby, my 1-year-old, happy birthday, buddy. Your birthday today. I'll give him credit for my improved singing voice.
Yeah, beyond your singing voice, I'm thinking about Kansas City as well, just because look, they haven't won a playoff game in 5 years, and it's kind of do or die time. And if they don't get it done today against RSL, it's maybe time for a rethink for the whole franchise, top to bottom.
All right, we'll see. Those fans get their game. First up, we get Bobby Warshaw hanging out at the tactical board here, taking us through everything. Bobby, what are you looking for?
I can't look forward to anything until Doyle buttons that top button on his shirt today. I don't know what we let him in the studio for with that. I'm most looking forward to seeing how teams approach leg 2. We saw what they did in leg 1. Some teams were conservative. Some teams went for it. What are they going to do when they know exactly what they have to do? Is Columbus going to go and try and keep the ball against Red Bulls? Is Atlanta going to attack against NYCFC? How are these teams going to approach this game in leg 2, and how will it differ from leg 1? That's what I'm keeping an eye on today.
We can all pray for another Portland-Seattle. Some more Cascadia. What a game that was. Here's what coming up today, 3 p.m. Eastern. Sporting Kansas City, Real Salt Lake. It is 1-1 on aggregate. Sporting KC has that all-important away goal. NYCFC, well, they gave up an away goal. Atlanta went to Yankee Stadium and got one, a 1-0 win for the Five Stripes. It's at 5:30 p.m., that doubleheader on ESPN, TSN, TVA Sports, your home in Canada. And we finished the day on Red Bull Arena. Red Bulls, Columbus. I can only imagine what the red side of New York is feeling right now. They should be nervous. Here's how it went down here. New York City, Atlanta, Kaylin. Look, Eric Remedi was not the goal scorer we predicted. This one did not count for Miguel Miron, but he is everything for this team, and we'll see if he's 90 minutes fit.
Well, yeah, there were a lot of questions, and mostly revolving around the health of Miguel Miron and Tito Villalba. They were able to get through with this one, as well as being able to get that ever-precious away goal. Showed their toughness throughout it, so they've got a big advantage going into a home match where 70,000 are going to fill up Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta.
You got that wiggle? That Remedi wiggle?
Ooh, that looks like a Bobby Warshaw finish.
Oh, yeah? All right. Of course, Red Bulls and Columbus, the other game here on the Eastern Conference side. Columbus at home, 1-0 winners. I mean, this is a huge result for them. This is what they do at home. This pass from Pipa to Giassi set the stage for a crazy leg 2.
This has been an incredible run for Columbus. They've been so confident, so consistent in these playoff games. And I think, obviously it is tough to be the same team twice in 1 week, but, the way that they're looking now, they are obviously proving that they can win and play well under pressure. But, it is tough to play in the Red Bull Arena in that type of atmosphere, and we'll see what happens today. But they are on a great run right now.
Rusnak, Doyle, he's not around though.
Yeah, not in leg 2. Maybe RSL can benefit from that a little bit, but Sporting Kansas City went to Rio Tinto, didn't play their best game, still got the 1-1 1-1 draw. Like I said, they're prohibitive favorites here. It's been half a decade since they won a playoff game. Have to get it done today.
As I said, 7 teams are left. The Portland Timbers, as we know, have moved on to the Western Conference Championship via that insane loss, then win in PKs against the Seattle Sounders on Thursday night. This was an iconic moment. They thought they'd won after extra time. Well, they hadn't. And they said, oh, we were hugging because we knew we were going to get it done in PKs. Yeah, I buy that. I believe that. Well, let's clear up some confusion right now and get the aggregate format rules down pat for you before these games. 2 legs, you know that, home and home. Aggregate goals, that means you add up the goals between the 2 legs. Most goals over that time advances. Tiebreaker, away goals, but, the away goals do not count once you are in extra time. So that is something to pay attention to very, very closely today.
Think of extra time as a 30-minute mini game between the 2 teams. There are no away goals. It makes sense because you give the advantage to the home field team.
All right, here are the odds from 538. 77% for Sporting Kansas City. They do have that away goal. 84 for Atlanta United. 56 for Columbus Crew SC, but that's probably just because they don't technically have that away goal yet. Bobby, what do you make of these numbers?
I always think 538's numbers are a little high. They go with the mathematical model. They go on past probabilities of teams making it up, but they don't account for how good these teams are, and more so, the fact that they have players back. The model accounts for what the team's record was, maybe when they were missing players, maybe they were in poor form, but NYCFC, for example, has their players back, so you can't account for the second half of their season when they're missing their stars. So I think all of those probabilities, or at least for Atlanta and SKC, are a little high, although I would say Columbus feels right. It's about 50-50.
All right. We'll see what happens today. That's what it's all about. We will, of course, be back here, right here in the MLS studios in New York City to break it all down. At the end of the night, we will know whether the Red Bulls have it all done. And, of course, the post-game is coming up at that as well. Coming up here, Susanna Collins, live from Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. We've got Jillian Sakovits doing her thing from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. She knows what that's about. And then, of course, an interview. Mark Dos Santos, the newest head coach in Major League Soccer. I'll get to that in a little bit. And then the Audi Player Index with Diego Rubio and Kyrie Shelton. Let's get right to our poll for the day. We're talking tactics. Eastern Conference. Who gets it done? This is a big question. Doyle, Martino, Tarrant, Armas, Berhalter, who are you leaning towards?
I mean, I'm leaning towards Martino and Berhalter because those guys have the longer timeline of having been head coaches. We know that Tata Martino can win games in knockout rounds, and we know that Greg Berhalter's been to an MLS Cup before. So those are the 2 I'm leaning to today.
What about you, Kaylin?
I like Tata Martino in this one. I know he's going to be gone at the end of the season, so this is, and maybe Berhalter will too, actually. A lot of the rumors with him going to the national team.
End of the
week. Yeah, but I'm interested to see. We might see those 2 match up against each other in the next round in the conference championship between Columbus and Atlanta if they both get it done today, which would be an interesting preview maybe of like a U.S.-Mexico rivalry.
How would you expect tactically today to play out? How are coaches, players thinking about it?
You play to win, and everyone has to come out and bring their best game because this is the second leg of the MLS playoffs and the first round. So, you have to come out and play to win and be prepared and do well under pressure because these are the games that you want to be in. These are the games that you play the entire season for, and this is why you play at the highest level here. Yeah,
away goals are the tiebreaker, but the last thing any of these teams want is a tiebreaker to decide their season, for or against. Try to get that win, try to move on, be one of the teams playing for the Philip F. Anschutz Trophy on December 8th, MLS Cup. We still don't know where it'll be. We will find out in a couple of weeks here, but we got to get to 4 first. Let's start with the early game. Sporting Kansas City, Real Salt Lake on ESPN in Canada, TSN, and TVA Sports. Here's how the Western Conference bracket stands right now. Of course, the Portland Timbers have pushed their way through. Seattle Sounders, nope, International Car Show this weekend. They can go there knowing that their MLS Cup playoff lives are over. On the other side, Kansas City, RSL. We have a rematch here from 2013. The last home game Sporting Kansas City played, it was MLS Cup, and here's how it's going to play out. You can see these handy grids at MLS social media or over at MLSsoccer.com. You can see extra time only comes with a 1-1 draw. And from there, Kaylin, it's pretty even all the way down, though if there's a scoring draw over 1-1, RSL will take it on away goals.
Well, the Timbers will be rooting today for Real Salt Lake because the last several weeks of the season, they played each other 2 separate times, beat them by 3 goals in each one. So they'd also have home field advantage, so they'll be rooting for the lower seed. And when I look at what happened last week with Real Salt Lake and Sporting. Salt Lake was in such a good position, coming off the momentum from the LAFC win against the odds, really, and then playing at home, had the beautiful goal from Rusnak, and then suddenly give up a sort of a soft late goal off a misplay from Raimondo in the back, and I think that might be the difference. Its margins are so small, especially, I know how hard it is going and playing at Sporting.
There's a gut check. We'll see what happens with RSL. Of course, we have Susanna Collins in Kansas City taking in the action at Children's Mercy Park. Susanna, how's it going? You're not as bundled up as we were back in 2013.
I know, Andrew. It's actually, when the sun is out here, it's actually very, very pleasant down on the field. So no complaints on my end. I'm very comfortable.
All right. As I said, though, it's been a long time for this fan base to have a playoff game, to see in the postseason their team with their own eyes. What do you think is going to happen in this atmosphere? How will it affect today's game?
Well, coming into Children's Mercy Park today, the parking lots were absolutely filled with Sporting Kansas City fans. So there is going to be an incredible turnout here today. And I was speaking to Matt Beasler earlier, and he knows how much it means to them to have the fan support here. He said that when this place is packed, when the fans are behind them, they are really, really, really hard to beat. So they know that they are going to have to rely on these fans to get them through the next 90 minutes, and it gives them a really, really big advantage here.
All right. On their RSL side, they're the 6th seed. They snuck into the playoffs in the final day of the regular season. I think back to 2009. They did that and won MLS Cup. They have got to be embracing that underdog role, no?
Oh my gosh, they really are, Andrew. In fact, I saw them walking in off the bus, and this is a very, very loose group. They were laughing, they were listening to music. You could hear them in the locker room just really enjoying themselves. They are calm, cool, and collected, and as you say, they have embraced this underdog mentality. I was speaking to Kyle Beckerman, and he talked about how playing with nothing to lose has really brought this group closer. They know that they can come up big when their backs are against the wall, and that is what they are looking to do here today. And there is every belief in the world in that locker room that they can do just that and get a result here.
Damir Kreilach, he got the Karate Kid goal. Albert Rusnak had the pile driver in the last game against Kansas City. He will not be available for this game. Yellow card suspension. What has the RSL side told you about that?
You know, this is obviously a big loss in their lineup for them, and they know that. But keep in mind, this is an RSL team that we have seen so many different lineups from. Mike Petke not shy about mixing things up here. So for them, it's sort of business as usual. They're just going to have to look to the entire team to sort of make up for that missing piece. But they've done it before. They're not worried. It really doesn't affect their game plan heading here today.
All right, thanks, Susanna. We'll check back in with you soon, okay?
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, guys. Albert Rusnak not available. The lineups are not yet out for this one, so we'll get to those in just one second. But Doyle, I want your opinion on what Mike Petke will do without his number 10 in the game.
I think the obvious thing to do is to drop Damir Kreilach back into that pseudo playmaker role. And I know it's a little weird because he's been their number 9 for the second half of the season, and he's been so productive already in these playoffs. But he's a natural midfielder, and he's pretty well, both in Germany and here for a couple of games. And it allows them to put Corey Baird as their center forward. And Baird is a very direct player. He will actually make those runs to try to get behind the Sporting Kansas City back line. And they're going to have to get behind that back line because Sporting Kansas City is going to press them. Sporting Kansas City is going to have 60% of the ball. They're going to push upfield. They're going to try to get that knockout punch early. So if you can hit him on the counter, I think you do it through Kreilach as the 10 and Baird as the number 9.
We talk about bogey teams sometimes, and Ali, I think about RSL and Kansas City, and I go back to 2013, and of course Kansas City wins it on PK. But in the time since then, they've got one win in 13 games against RSL. When you see that stat as a player, if you were a Kansas City player, would you think about that at all, or would you try to wipe it clean?
I think you just try and wipe it clean. You try not to think about the past. It's probably, you obviously have new players, a new mentality, and I think it's really important just to stay focused on your job on that day and just stay focused on your team and what your plan is and the structure of that and being consistent and willing to do the work to succeed.
And you have to remember, this is a more experienced team in Sporting Kansas City. A lot of those players that won that championship are still there, at least the core of them with Graham Suzy and Matt Beasler and the likes. And with Ike Opara coming in, Seth Sinovic will be back in the lineup today. He missed the last round due to suspension. That back line is very stingy. So Corey Baird's going to have his hands full. I do like that move as well, though, just to add a little bit of pace, something different, because Mike Petke mentioned after the match they need to become more dynamic in the attack. Well, the Rookie of the Year is the best piece they have going forward.
I agree. Again, I agree with that. Bobby has a take, though. Bobby's take is that RSL are better without Rusnak.
Bobby?
Yeah.
Walk
We're
us
getting
through
there
this.
already? You're just gonna toss it here?
Yeah, we'll put you on the spot with this
like
one.
that.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to get out of this real quick because we don't know the exact lineup yet. But yeah, I do think that RSL is better without Rusnak because Rusnak is a very good player, and I would compare Rusnak to maybe Lucho Acosta last year, the last couple years. Very good on the ball, very talented, but takes up a lot of air like number 10s often do. He takes touches, he needs the ball at his feet, but he's not quite as good to accommodate for how often he does get it and how long he takes on it. And in doing that, in taking up all that air within the team and on the ball without producing the high-level numbers or at least getting his teammates involved at the level he should, I do think they underachieve. I think having Damir Kreilach, who's more of a functional number 10, getting in the box, finishing off chances, and then just have Severino, Plata, Baird making runs and attacking goal, that's the best version of this team.
All right, we'll find out what the lineups are very, very soon. Wait around for those. We'll be back with much, much more. In the meantime, there's a decision for Peter Vermees as well. Does he go with Kyrie Shelton? Does he go with Diego Rubio? Matt and Bobby broke down that decision and those players in the Audi Player Index.
Hey folks, welcome back to Inside the Audi Player Index, putting the spotlight on some of the most important players in the Audi 2018 MLS Cup playoffs, and two is better than one, Bobby Warshaw. You want to have that change up. You want to throw the left jab and then hit him with the right cross. And that's what Kyrie Shelton and Diego Rubio have been for the Sporting Kansas City attack.
Yeah, neither one is probably the complete striker to win MLS Cup, but together, the way they complement each other has really worked for SKC this year. And here we see Kyrie Shelton first, who has turned out to be primarily the starter for the team. And Kyrie Shelton is more of the passer of the two, and that means two things. One, just the passing ability, and that was certainly a dope ball through. But the second part of this is actually the way he does his movements as well. If we pause it right here, Matt, the reason this can happen is that Kyrie Shelton has come off the back line and brought the center back with him. And when the center back left, it vacated a zone where somebody else could run into. It's that movement that sets up the teammates. Now on the flip side, Diego Rubio, when he comes into the game, often does the counter movements which catch defenders off guard.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of that right here. He's drifting off this back line. He doesn't want to get the ball. He just wants to get the back line out of joint, let someone else do the hold-up play and playmaking, and then he can drift into space. He's not the pass guy, Bobby.
No, he's the guy that wants to shoot. When he gets on the ball, he only has an eye for goal. But we see these goals so often, man. He's so good at picking up his head, finding the yard of space, take a shot, and then the technique to hit the corner.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of goals and shots from outside of the box this year, including what we saw against RSL in Leg 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. We'll see if he can replicate that in Leg 2.
There's the numbers as you see them. There's Children's Mercy Park. Little wind blowing, but it looks like a beautiful day in the Midwest. This is on the Kansas side, of course. Sporting Kansas City trying to get their first win in the playoffs since 2013 and MLS Cup. It's been a long time coming for this team. Can they do it today against RSL, who they've only beaten one time in the 13 meetings since, including that 1-1 draw at, of course, the Riot earlier this week. Okay, let's get into a classic, which we witnessed on Thursday, and one that set the stage on the other side of the Western Conference bracket. That is Seattle and Portland. It was 2-1 Portland, headed to CenturyLink Field on Thursday night. 2-1 in regulation, insanity ensues in extra time, and then PKs to remember. I'm still on a high from this game. I'm still lacking sleep. I still have bags under my eyes from this game. Kalen, do you share my feelings there? Have you moved on?
Yeah, well, I think we got out of here at like 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Charlie Davies had a flight a couple hours late.
I don't think Charlie slept.
I feel for, and he's got twins when he got home, so I feel for Charlie. But I mean, it delivered though, as far as it's the best playoff matchup of the tournament so far. And you know, just when you thought it was over, Seattle was able to kind of rescue themselves again and again. And look, you know, Portland escaped a little bit there because they put themselves into a hole, and then look. They were able to get back out of it, and Sebastian Blanco was big. He stepped up in a huge way, and Dairon Asprilla, the unlikely hero in this one. Well, at least to some. I think I may have picked him to score goals somehow. And then the penalties, you know, that can go to a crapshoot, but I think Portland just felt a little bit more like the team that was always going to come out on top, especially as it went deeper and deeper into the match, and now they get to rest.
The best playoff striker of all time.
The 5 best.
Dairon, and Dairon. And you, sir, on Twitter, as you often are, were the snark king of Dyron Spria.
I wasn't being snarky.
Okay, there was facts, though. There were facts.
No, he played great. Like he's a guy who has not delivered in the regular season. He has 5 goals in about 4,000 career minutes. In the postseason, in about 500 or 600 career minutes, he's got 3 goals and 3 assists. He was in a wonderful celebratory dance at the end as well. He was awesome. He came in for the final 20 minutes regulation, and then in extra time, he changed this game. Goal and an assist, and the series clinching penalty kick. They'll remember Dyron Spria forever in Portland.
You said it was a Dyron game.
It is a Dyron. 10 years from now, we're around. You know, we're hanging out with little Cam as he's in
fingers
4th grade.
crossed.
And we say the Dyron Spria game. Everybody knows exactly which game we're talking about. Everybody will know.
All right. Who does Portland want more? We've kind of answered that question. It feels like Real Salt Lake based on those 2 matchups late in the regular season. Do matchups like that matter? Just because they won late in the regular season, does that mean Portland's sitting at home saying, give us that again?
You know, it depends, but I think every game is a new game and a new opportunity, and no game's the same. So I think that obviously you would want that as if you were Portland, looking at it now, but you never know how it could be because the way they came out against LA, a couple weeks ago was pretty impressive to me. So it just depends on the day, and no game's the same, and you just got to take the opportunities when they come, depending on who the teams are.
What do you think Giovanni Savarese is thinking today, Caitlin, as he watches this match?
Well, Allie's giving you the political answer because she's still a player.
Right. I got to be careful.
I would say that I think he'll be hoping for RSL because I think mainly because they saw how difficult it was to go up to Seattle and be able to get a result in the second leg, but I think they'd prefer to have that one at home. Again, I think Sporting has more experience in the playoffs and as a tougher matchup, a tougher out for Portland. RSL playing with house money, so that is still dangerous, Ali. I think either team could cause problems. You never know.
We'll find out today who the Portland Timbers will face in the Western Conference Championship with MLS Cup on the line. And we're speaking now to the latest head coach out west. That is Marc Dos Santos, the new head coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps. Marc, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Nice being here.
All right, let's get started right now with why Vancouver, why this job, and what MLS fans who maybe aren't familiar with your work should expect from you in BC.
So number one, the fact it was Vancouver, it was an opportunity to go back to Canada, a club with a great margin of progression that has done a lot already with their academy, developing players, being very hard with the vertical integration in the club and trying to get everything aligned. I just felt that the potential for the club to grow even more was there. And that's why I chose that job.
How do you balance the play your kids mantra versus the results mantra? This will be year 1 for you in Vancouver. Expectations for the club are playoffs. That's throughout the league. How do you balance those 2 jobs?
Yeah, one, you have to make sure that you see who's ready. You want to make sure that, yes, you develop players. Yes, you allow players to grow and reach their dreams. But at the same time, they need to be ready for it. So we want to find out in the club how we're doing that work. Are we preparing the players in the right way to get to the first team? And at the same time, we have to make sure that in the first team, we have the right type of mentalities to make those players grow. So it's not an easy job to do when you want to be a development club. And at the same time, yes, it's clear for everybody that we want to make the playoffs. That's no doubt. And that's clear for everybody.
Alphonso Davies is maybe the success story all time in Major League Soccer as it pertains to youth development. He's now moved on to Bayern Munich. That's one of the big pieces of news this offseason. You're another, I think the third for the Vancouver Whitecaps, were those postseason press conferences. A lot of dirty laundry aired in the public sphere there. I have to imagine you watched those. What was going through your mind as you saw that? What job does that spark for you?
Yeah, I don't pay a lot of attention to what was happening in the past because it was with another type of leadership, another type of locker room. So yes, I'm aware of everything and I'm aware of what was said. But the most important for me is what's going to happen moving forward. I want to establish strong foundations when it comes to a clear model of play, clear identity of play, a direction, a DNA in the club, going after players that maximize that model and maximize the identity that we want to bring to the club, developing a strong scouting department that should be very new in the club. So I think we want to go in a different type of direction, and hopefully we'll see signs of it as of the first year now.
You've prepared for this move in a lot of ways in the lower divisions as a head coach, winning titles as we saw there, but also as an assistant in Major League Soccer. Bob Bradley, Peter Vermees, two of the most successful clubs in the league. Short-term LAFC, long-term Sporting Kansas City. What did you learn from those experiences that you'll apply? What kind of head coach will you be? What's this identity that you're talking about?
Oh, the kind of head coach that I'll be is the one that's grown in the last 12 years, being in different places, different countries, always taking difficult challenges. I think it's in my DNA not to be in easy spots. I like to take challenges that are not easy. At the same time, with Peter, I learned a lot about how he was so clear in what he wanted to do in Sporting Kansas City with the academy, developing the players, having a clear idea and identity in the club. With Bob, I was able to be next to not only a great coach, but a great man with a great heart, somebody that showed me how to unify a lot of people in the club and make everybody feel important in the club in a very special way. So I think everywhere, even in Brazil, in a club like Palmeiras, everywhere I've been, I was able to learn a lot and be ready for a job like this now.
Got it. All right, thank you, Mark, for joining us here. Kansas City, Kansas, Children's Mercy Park, 3 p.m. Eastern. The game is coming up. 1-1 aggregate before these two games. Sporting Kansas City with a crucial away goal. The game schedule, as you can see it right here. Sporting KC and Real Salt Lake get us started. And then you've got Atlanta, New York City decide the other side of the Eastern Conference along with the Red Bulls and Columbus. Doubleheader on ESPN, then over to FS1 for the nightcap. And then after that, right back here on Audi MLS Playoff Central with Ali Krieger and the guys here. We will break this whole thing down. But we now have the lineups, and Bobby Warshaw is at the board with some big news for Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, some big news, and let's give it to you right now. We've got 3 changes, 2 of which are pretty surprising. The first, at center back, Marcelo Silva is rolled out due to injury. So Justin Glad, just kidding, guys, it's not Justin Glad. It's Nick Beasler, Matt Beasler, Nick Beasler. I always get him mixed up.
Nick Beasler, younger brother.
Nick Beasler, because Matt Beasler's on the other team. Nick Beasler in at center back, which means Justin Glad is actually not the first sub. It's Beasler in for Marcelo Silva. In midfield, Luke Mulholland comes in for Sonny at defensive mid in the 4-3-3. And Luis Silva up top. Corey Baird not even in the 18. We had said a few minutes ago that we were looking forward to him starting up top in place of Albert Rusnak in that attack. Baird is out with concussion protocol, which means Luis Silva steps in the lineup. Luis Silva's a little different. Whereas Baird can get on the break, he's fast, he has great movement getting in behind defenders. Luis Silva is a hold-up striker. He's going to come to the ball, he's going to get the ball with his back to the defenders, lay it off for Severino and Rusnak to then run 1v1 at the Kansas City back four. So 3 changes. The 2 big ones, Corey Baird out at striker and Marcelo Silva out at center back, and Beasler in his place.
All right, give us this Kansas City side here, Bobby.
Yep.
What are we seeing there?
Let's flip it over, of course. Matt Beasler in at center back in his usual spot. 4-3-3 that we are used to seeing. Ilie Sanchez, a defensive midfielder. The big talking point on this one, Diego Rubio in up top. Kyrie Shelton had started the last few games. Kyrie Shelton, the one a little better with his back to goal, better bringing his teammates into play. Diego Rubio, more of the striker, more of the guy who's going to look for his own shot. So Diego Rubio in up top, and then Seth Sinovic in at left back. Yohan Quase had started because Sinovic was out suspended with a red card. Sinovic is back. 2 changes, but pretty much a first choice team from SKC.
That's what we expected from Kansas City. Apart from maybe up top, Diego Rubio a little more dynamic, perhaps going toward goal than Kyrie Shelton is. But the other side, guys, that's where the questions come into play. Nick Beasler for Justin Glad, who is not even in Mike Pecky's doghouse at this point. He's out back somewhere else. And then you've also got Silva up top. And Mulholland in for Sonny. What is Mike Pecky thinking, Doyle?
Well, the Silva one's self-explanatory, right? If Corey Baird's hurt, you can't play him, and Silva is third on the depth chart at forward, so there you go. Mulholland over Sonny makes sense because we knew Mulholland wasn't going to be able to play in that first leg because he was on short rest. I don't really get the one going Nick Beasler for Justin Glad. Glad's been a starter for the better part of 3 years now. He's been mostly very good. I thought he came in when Silva got hurt last week and played 50 good minutes. That said, Pecky kept going on about back passes. He did not want to see the ball played back to the keeper, and that goal that Sporting Kansas City got was on a Justin Glad ball back to Nick Rimando. And maybe he doesn't blame Rimando for poor clearance. Maybe he blames Vlad for being not quite brave enough with his distribution. And this is the message you send. I think it's bold. I think it's a little bit crazy, but that's how Mike Pecky manages, man.
Sporting Kansas City side, Peter Vermees chooses Diego Rubio over Kyrie Shelton. Why do you think he did that, Kalen?
Just form, just based on form. Vermees has been flexible enough to switch these two interchangeably throughout the end of the season, going with the hot hand. Before we saw Kyrie Shelton come on late, score a goal against Vancouver, he starts the next several games. Now we see Rubio come on, get the late goal. He comes in a little bit fresher as well, feeling confident. You want to go at home with your most informed players and then have the option of Shelton off the bench.
All right, more on this game later. It starts at 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, TSN, and TVA Sports. Here's that bracket. Portland Timbers, they've got their spot in the conference championship out west, but out east, we still have to decide what two teams will stay alive in their quest to lift MLS Cup. Red Bulls Columbus, that is the game that's going to end the day. And of course, the game before that, New York City, Atlanta. Here's how our poll worked out. Make them spin, boys. Everybody thinks Tata Martino is going to come out on top, a.k.a. Atlanta United fans are super active on Twitter. Which of these coaches, Ali, when you look at the guys in the running here, have you been impressed by?
I obviously been impressed by Martino throughout the entire year, without question, but also Berhalter. I mean, you can see that he manages his players very well, and especially in the playoffs in these past two weeks. And I think that's been impressive to watch throughout the season. So that will be exciting to see how far he can take this team. And then hopefully, looking into the future, we'll see what, comes next.
What other teams he might be managing.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking into the future, let's use our crystal balls. I think we don't really need that. It's probably the U.S. national team. Still don't know for sure, but let's take a closer look at Atlanta, New York City, a 1-0 lead in this one for Atlanta United. They go to Yankee Stadium, just the second team this year to get a win, and they win 1-0. And here's how it happened. Yes, sir. They thought they had the lead because Miguel Almiron got on the end of this one. He played the first 45 minutes, but no, eventually it would be called back for offside. The question here I have for you guys is, what do they need from Almiron in this game?
Well, I think that they're going to be playing really in their own half a little bit. They want to invite NYCFC up the field, and then when that happens, Atlanta can be devastating getting out into space on the break. And Almiron is the best in the league. I mean, other than Landon Donovan, he's maybe the best in league history at playing in that sort of game. That's what they need.
He looked great in the first 45 as well, and looked lively. We saw him come off injury last year doing the same thing with a hamstring, and really showed no signs of it. They were lucky to get him off at halftime, and I think now we see he's a guy that you can give the ball to in tough spots and also just immediately start the break. He's so dynamic in transition.
All right, 1-0 New York City FC is the only scenario here that gets us to extra time. Everything else is a clear winner, so that's what you'll have to watch as well. Jillian Sakovitz has been covering this team all season long. She's out in her stomping grounds, Atlanta. Jillian, how's it going?
Hey, Andrew. Yes, I am. I am back in my stomping grounds. It's good.
All right, they're looking for their first home playoff win, are the Five Stripes. Last year, it was a little bit of pain in penalties against Columbus Crew SC. What kind of atmosphere are you expecting here? Could we see 70,000?
Yes, they are expecting 70,000+, Andrew, which, nowadays is not becoming news here in Atlanta. You can see the fan village, which is where we've been hanging out. It's been a buzz all morning. It's been a buzz all afternoon. I took a little spin through the Gulch on my way over here. That area is also a buzzing. That's the tailgate area. One thing that's going to be going on that I love is Resurgence, one of the supporter groups. They're all doing their best Tata Martino. We don't know why. Even someone who covers the team, we don't know why he's been doing it all year, but he's been dubbed Superman with that sweater that he keeps putting over his shoulders. So look for a few hundred Resurgence fans all dressed as Tata Martino in there. We also have a couple New York City FC supporters in there. The third rail is hanging out with Terminus Legion. So it's all fun and games. Everyone is hanging out in unison until we get into the Benz in just a few hours.
Yeah, looking forward to finding that country club section in the seats somewhere. Fold the sweater, folks, right over the top. The other side of things, Dome Tarrant, he's a new head coach just this season for New York City FC. After that first leg, he had some pointed words about diving. What sort of response has Atlanta had to that?
No, what's interesting about that? These are two managers in Dome Tarrant and Tata Martino that tend to hang out in the background. They don't really make headlines, but both of them made headlines this week. Tata Martino when he dropped some English during the halftime interview that he had in the first leg, and then Dome with those comments about diving and delays. Tata Martino really brushed them aside, and he didn't have much to say about it. Michael Parker said, when it comes to playing aggressively, well, we've played that way all year. That's part of our identity. Don't expect us to play less aggressive at home here in leg 2. It was an interesting move, Andrew, by Dome Tarrant. It's a tactic that's been made popular by guys like Jose Mourinho, Jurgen Klopp, taking the attention away from their own players and deflecting the attention and putting a little bit of pressure on the officials. And one of those officials today will be Mark Geiger, who Atlanta fans know well.
Nothing can deflect attention from Miguel Almiron. This could potentially be his last game for Atlanta. Are there any limitations on him after that injury, or is this just start the game and you got 90 in you?
Yeah, the team told me that Miguel Almiron is fine. He trained normally all week. I don't anticipate seeing any restrictions on his time today. I definitely expect to see him in the starting 11, obviously. But one guy that is questionable in the starting 11 is Jeff Larentowicz. Tata Martino saying he sustained a muscular injury, and that's as in-depth as he would go at the very end of leg 1. Now, Jeff Larentowicz is a big piece of this team. He's played in all 34 regular season games this year, 33 of those starts. He's an MLS veteran, one of 2 guys to win an MLS Cup. And while he's a quiet guy, he's not on social media. As someone who covers this team, he steps up and he's a voice when the team needs it. And it would be a loss not to see him out there today. So we'll see with Jeff, but Miguel's good to go.
We'll check those lineups when they come out, of course, so you can follow those on Twitter as we all do here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll look forward to a little interview later. Vera Ziegler, the girl who's behind all the TIFO. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Jillian. Let's go to Bobby Warshaw now, because one of the big things for Tata today on the tactical front, by the way, vote in the poll, is how Atlanta United slow down or stop Maxi Morales and David Villa.
That's exactly right. Atlanta totally stifled pretty much everything that NYCFC wanted to do at Yankee Stadium. Let's take a look at how they did it. And here's Atlanta's formation. We have Jeff Larentowicz in right now at right center back. They came out in basically a 3-5-2, 3 tight center backs, 3 tight center midfielders, and then Miguel Almiron, or in the second half, Tito Villalba, really played off of Joseph Martinez and stayed central. And you can see what this does. It crowds the heck out of the middle of the field. So David Villa always has numbers around him. Maxi Morales always have numbers around him. And for the most part, as we can see from this clip, NYCFC tried to go down the middle. They tried to just force it right down the throat of Atlanta, and it didn't really work. Here we see Joseph high. Here we see Villalba right behind him central, and then the 3 center midfielders and the 3 center backs. And they struggled. Atlanta got what they wanted. They stifled them. But I want to point out what they can do differently. And I'm going to circle Maxi Morales here. Maxi Morales, for the most part, tried to play centrally, tried to play between the gaps. He tried to get the ball off David Villa, and it didn't work. As I just pointed out, Atlanta had a ton of numbers right around there. So what do you do instead? Float wide. Create the overlap in this channel. We've talked about this a lot throughout the playoffs. A lot of teams in world soccer right now clog the heck out of this part of the field. They play 3 center backs. They play 2 defensive midfielders. So instead of trying to force it down there, put your overload wide. Have your number 10 drift out there. Have your center striker drift out there. Create the chance. It didn't work out there against Jeff Larentowicz. He made a great tackle. But you're not going to get everything you want when you play against 5 defenders and 3 center midfielders. You've got to pick your best probability. When you play Atlanta today, their best probability is going to be to isolate Jeff Larentowicz or maybe Darlington Nagbe, maybe Julian Gressel, not natural defenders out wide. So keep an eye on Maxi Morales going for that.
I actually think it's Escobar. Like, we conceive of soccer sometimes as a weak link game, and if there was a clear weak link in that first leg for Atlanta United, it was Escobar at right wing back. He doesn't defend well in space, and he's a little slow reading combination play as well. So I completely agree with Bobby. You're going to see a big overload from NYCFC on that left-hand side.
Can I make the follow-up point to that? So if Atlanta got the better of NYCFC, maybe because it was a small field. So we say, all right, so they go back to Mercedes-Benz, it's a little bigger. Will Maxi Morales find more space? Will David Villa find more space? Well, I want to reference this. And this is all of the touches that Villa and Maxi Morales had April 15th in Atlanta. And you know what you see there? You see a total lack of touches in and around the 18. So that doesn't look good to me for NYCFC. It doesn't seem to me that it was the space or Yankee Stadium that hurt them, but maybe just the way that Atlanta set up. Maybe they struggle against this 5-3-2 setup.
Give me the defender perspective here, Ali. You hear all this, you're taking it all in, you understand what it means to game plan and stop elite attacking players. If you're Atlanta, what would you be doing?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to keep what's attractive wide as a defender. Obviously you said that they should attack wide and create 2v1s, 1v1s wide and vary the attack, which is, I think, what we'll see today. But as a defender, you do want to just keep everything wide and out of the middle. And so that's where you see, I think, them kind of holding a block in there in the middle. And then once they win it, they quick transition forward and into the attack, which I think will open up some space today as well on the bigger field.
That's the big thing for me, Ali, I think, is getting some opportunities in transition. Because, yes, Bobby, if you set up a 5-3-2, it's already too clogged. It's too late for you. Right. But when we've seen this NYCFC team be successful, it's been through the wide areas in transition against Philadelphia Union in the first round. Morales makes that deep lying through run and is able to find David Villa with an early ball in behind. So they need to get out in the break a little bit quicker.
All right, these two teams are in a great spot right now. New York City had a little bit of a rough late summer, early fall, but seems like they've got things going together. They were two of the three that we called the big three earlier in the season, along with the New York Red Bulls. But Doyle, they could face major changes this offseason. Tata's gone. Dome Torrent, he will probably shuffle this team a little bit. Miguel Almiron could be gone. So could Joseph Martinez. What's at stake for both of these clubs today?
I think there's more at stake for NYCFC simply because David Villa is the big question mark. And we know that Almiron is gone, but we also know that Arthur Blank is going to go out and spend X amount of money on Pity Martinez and whoever else from Argentina probably to replace him. I just don't have as many questions about Atlanta United's long-term vision and structure. I do have it for NYCFC, and it would be a shame for this franchise, really, if they went 3 years with David Villa in the playoffs and never got out of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And that's what they're looking at. By the way, Yangel Herrera also probably gone this offseason. Arguably, not as good a player as David Villa, but arguably more crucial.
I'm less worried about NYCFC than Atlanta, actually, just because they've already reimagined themselves about 3 times since they've become a club. I mean, they had Pirlo and Lampard, and then went with Maxi Morales, and then found Yangel Herrera, and then they lost Jack Harrison, and they bring in
throw it all the way back to the Jason Kreis era that was so short-lived as well.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was. So I'm less concerned about them being able to sort of find a replacement. But yes, if you're an NYCFC fan, you want to see them go after this title with David Villa because he's been the one constant that's been able to be their number 9 for so long.
All right. Game on the field, that's one place where these two teams will compete. Of course, Tifo Wars have been going on in these playoffs as well. We saw them in Cascadia. We'll see something today in Atlanta. Jillian caught up with Vera Ziegler, the woman who creates all the Tifos for Atlanta United, a little bit earlier.
I am so thrilled to be joined by Resurgence Tifo Queen Vera Ziegler. Vera, you've been inside the Benz for quite a while. We thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to come out here and chat with us today. You are now 2 years in here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
What has stood out to you the most?
It's just the environment altogether, from the supporter culture to the fan involvement to, just the response back from the players and the club itself has been amazing, and we love it. And, the quality of play is not too bad either. So that's kind of stood out, just how the city has embraced the club so much and how the club's embraced us as well. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Now, you're a big part of making the Tifo all possible. I know you have a full-time job as a creative director, but you've also had quite the undertaking with the Tifos. Tell me a little bit about what goes into that day in and day out. How do you guys come up with the ideas? Do you have any little bit of a hint of what today's is going to look like? Tell me about that.
So the Tifo process is a very collaborative process. I'm kind of the lead for Resurgence as far as coming up with ideas and the execution. So we'll kind of throw things around depending on who we're playing. And we'll, sketch some things on napkins, take it to the computer, and then it's like maybe 4 to 5 days before a match, all hands are on deck at a warehouse in the city, and we're cranking and painting away. It has influence. So we did King Beach last year, and it turned out to be the inspiration for our kit this year. It's my favorite one that I designed, by the way, so it was just an amazing, feeling to see that up and see that the club really responded from it.
Yeah, you guys might not know this. You're looking at the mastermind here of the King Peach kits themselves. How did you guys come up with King Peach? It was actually, you guys were playing NYCFC when you rolled out that TIFO.
Yeah, and it was just kind of going on the theme, we were still new, and it was that idea, everyone knows about New York, and New York is the city, but Atlanta's got something special going. So we wanted to say, hey, the Peach is here. Not only we just know it's better than Apple right now, we're the kings of the South, we're running things. So I threw the crown on it, and people just ran with it, and they loved it, so.
King of the South, running things. Guess who else is running things right now down in Argentina?
Yeah, it's Pity Martinez. He got an assist on Rivers first. It's 1-1, just about at halftime in the first leg of the Copa Libertadores final. I'm sure there are a lot of Atlanta United fans at the tailgate. They got that game on, and two-boxing,
So
of course.
That's what you're doing over here,
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you should probably be two-boxing that as well. We thank you for picking us over that Clasico. What an incredible game going on right now. This will also be an incredible game down in Atlanta. King Peach, can they move on? Can they go to the conference championships? On the other side, the red side of New York is under pressure in the playoffs. Once again, this game is our nightcap. It's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1. You know how to get it in Canada by this point. It's 1-0 Columbus, guys. That means that both sides of Red Bull's Twitter are bickering, fighting, trying to decide whether to be positive or negative. And I give you our resident Red Bulls whisperer, Matt Doyle.
Oh, boy.
You know how this feeling goes.
Yeah.
What is the feeling right now for Red Bulls fans?
I think for the long-suffering, old-school Red Bulls fans, they almost unanimously feel like, oh, we've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. And I mean, most recently, saw it in 2015 when they were facing Columbus Crew, and they came back and they just couldn't get it done. They couldn't get the goal that they needed. That said, this is the best Red Bulls team ever. This is the first time they have entered the playoffs as, I think, unquestionably the favorites. They dominated pretty much every playoff caliber team throughout the season, except, of course, Columbus. And I think there's maybe a bit more confidence than usual, especially amongst the new fans who really only know a team that's won 3 Supporter Shield in the last 6 years. They don't care about that curse of Curricula. That happened before they were born.
The margin in 2015 was a little bit more. It was 2-0, I believe, at Mapfre. Then they came back to Red Bull Arena. That post really hurt.
Yeah.
We want to take a look back at that to remind you what it was like in 2015 as we lead into 2018. Let's see that now.
For 89 minutes, the Red Bulls generated precious few chances. But then, 2 goals down and their season about to expire, the game changed completely.
Zizzo's crossing. Clark stays at home. Along by Saura. Up in the air from Sam. Clark can't get there. A ball does! 90 seconds plus stoppage time remaining.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Still no full time. McCourty in. A ball up in the air. Miazga's header on Phillips.
Are you kidding me?
This is what soccer's about, the small margins. It's a small margin sport, and the difference between going into overtime and being eliminated is centimeters. Fortunately for us, it bounced the right way and bounced out, and we were able to hold on and win the series.
And as far as McCarty, a shot is blocked, and that is it.
Curacao would, of course, advance to MLS Cup. They lost to Portland Timbers in that one. But this is the curse. Supporters Shield. They've won 3 of them. And, of course, MLS Cup remains the championship that Red Bull supporters thirst after. The club wants it. Chris Armas, who took over from Jesse Marsch midseason, said it after that celebration at Red Bull Arena. We are not done yet. We absolutely want more. We want MLS Cup. We want to deliver it to you. Ali, do you believe in curses? Are curses real in this game to you?
Maybe not on the football pitch, but I just think they have a new opportunity to change what has happened in the past. And, if everyone comes out and individually performs and performs well, I think they'll have success. It's obviously a second leg game for a reason. You have another opportunity to win and to move on. And they have to bring everything today and play, obviously, a little bit better than they did last match.
Mm-hmm. They have to fluster Columbus. And if you look back at that whole Columbus, that first leg, Columbus was just so comfortable for the vast majority of it. And granted, you needed special plays from special players, and that's what they got from Zach Steffen there and Pipa Higuain on the goal. But I looked at that, I rewatched that game, I rewatched their meetings in the regular season, and basically at no point did the Red Bulls impose themselves physically, mentally, emotionally on the Crew the way we've seen this team do to so many good teams in big games. For whatever reason, Columbus are able to just either play through the press or just play over it very comfortably, and the game never gets out of control, which is what the Red Bulls
That's why
want.
I think this is I said it before, this is a nightmare matchup for the Red Bulls. And I think because the way the Crew play, they are so good at playing out of the back, the best in MLS. I mean, they've got Zach Steffen and Will Trapp, two U.S. men's national team players that Greg Berhalter will probably carry forward to implement this system. And then Harrison Afua and Valenzuela on the outside. So there's so many different places to outlet the ball. And then once you break that press, you've got Pipa Higuain waiting for you to be able to play, make it, and find passes. Jalsis Artis in good form. So this is a tricky matchup for the Red Bulls. I don't think their pressure is necessarily going to overwhelm the Crew. They might have to find other ways.
This could be the most tactical match of the second legs in the conference semifinals. And of course, when we talk about tactics, where do we go? Where else but Bobby Warshaw at the touchscreen? Walk us through it.
Now let's break down the tangible meaning behind what Matzo getting flustered and what Kalen said about Red Bulls press. And Columbus does one very specific thing that hurts the Red Bulls press and makes it tougher to press Columbus than really it is to press any other team in the league. And it's this. This is the number 6 defensive midfielder, Will Trapp. Well, this is number 8, the second defensive midfielder, Artur. What Columbus do is they have them both come back for the ball, which then creates essentially a 6v6 in this part of the field. Kaku steps to one center back, BWP steps to the other center back, a winger steps to an outside back, a winger steps to an outside back. Uh-oh, we've got one center mid accounted for, but where's the other center midfielder? Well, he can't step, because if he were to step, what would that do? That would leave the wingers tucking in, or Pipa Higuain, who's just out of your screen right here wide open. It puts Red Bulls in an impossible position. If they want to press, if they want to get man-to-man on every single player, there's going to be someone open behind them. Here we see it again. Will Trapp steps to the ball. He's not open. Well, there's Artur. Artur lays it off, and you see, do we notice how these two players for Red Bulls had to drop? Well, that's because I said there's wingers tucking in behind them, or Pipa Higuain, or the potential long ball to Jalsis Artis that can have behind them, and they can't allow that happen, so they have to drop, and one of the center midfielders is open. Well, here's the last part of that. Yes, Columbus usually get out of it, but I also want to point out when they lose the ball. When they lose the ball, they also have numbers behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's way better than most teams. Most teams, when they try and play out of the press, they split the center backs, they have a defensive midfielder drop in, they have the other center midfielder disconnected. So all of a sudden when Red Bulls win it, they're only attacking 3 players. Well, when Columbus drops their 2 defensive midfielders, guys, A, it gives them numbers up to build out, but it also gives them an extra number behind the ball, so when Red Bulls win it, and Red Bulls do win it, they do get 2 or 3 turnovers on Columbus around their box. The difference is that Columbus has the extra man back and doesn't get punished.
Ali, put me in their shoes, the Red Bulls. If you were on that team and you knew that you were down and you had to come out and press and you had to get a goal and the pressure was on you, how would you approach it?
I feel like if they do have a high press and they go in 100, then everyone in behind needs to follow. You can't be so disconnected from your teammates. And if one forward goes, then the others have to go with. And you know, if one forward goes and the back 4 or the central midfielders don't stay attached, that is when you see those holes created. And then, you know, Columbus can exploit that. So as long as everyone stays attached in their press, then I think they can be successful and kind of press them in these pockets and be able to win the ball higher up on the field. But if they don't do that, that's what you see last game. What happened? They kind of pick them apart throughout, even from building out of the back.
Going to be a fun one to watch with a microscope here. We asked you which Eastern Conference manager you had the most faith in to get it right today in our poll. Run the numbers, calculations. Greg Berhalter is up to 32%, but dang it, those Atlanta United fans love them some Twitter.
Very online.
They are voting like crazy. There is literally no faith, I guess 1%, in Dome Torrent.
I guess that was Galena.
Yeah, boy. New York City FC fans must be asleep out there.
I mean, it is a referendum on the second half of the season with Dome Torrent because they just had 2 good games, but they were both against a Philadelphia team that was kind of outmanned and outgunned. They got to get one today. Yep. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They have to go on the road and beat a playoff team. They haven't done that since March 4th of 2018.
March 4th. That was a long time ago. Feels like ancient history.
Lifetimes, man.
Yeah, ancient history. Bobby, take us to the board here. Of course, the first game today is RSL Sporting Kansas City from Children's Mercy Park, and Mike Pecky surprised us a little bit.
Yeah, in case you missed it, RSL is going to come out in the 4-3-3 we're used to seeing them in, but 3 changes from last game. Nick Beasler in at center back. Marcelo Silva is out injured, and Justin Glad was not selected. It's Beasler in at center back. Luke Mulholland returns to the lineup. He comes in for Sonny at center mid. And Luis Silva at center striker. Albert Rusnak is out suspended. And Corey Baird is out with concussion protocol, which means Luis Silva in here. I showed you Luis Silva will tend to come back for the ball. Damir Krylak will be the one getting in the box with his late runs, and it creates space for Jefferson Savarino and João Plata to make their darting runs toward goal.
It's good that you have the overlapping arrow for Brooks Lennon, because he's going to live in that attacking half if RSL want to score.
Yep. All right, that is Mike Peckey's side. We'll get you Peter Vermees' side in just 1 second. In the meantime, Susanna Collins is out there in Kansas City. She spoke to Kyle Beckerman before this match.
All right, Kyle, you come to this game. You guys need to score. The first 15 minutes of leg one, you guys came out firing. So how do you replicate that rhythm to start the game here today?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to come out with a lot of intensity, see if we can match it or even beat theirs. We know they're going to come out flying. Stay unorganized, see if we can catch them on the break, maybe kind of play that field position a little bit in the first 15 and just go on from there.
Kansas City is a possession-based team, but you guys limited them to 33% last game. How do you do that again here in Kansas City?
Well, it'll be tough. We know they play better at home. They have a really solid team. What Peter's done to this team is impressive. They play good quality style. So we're going to have our hands full, but we're looking forward to the challenge.
No Albert Rusnak in this game due to the yellow card accumulation. How, as a team, do you make up for that missing piece in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, he's a big part of our team. He sure is, and we're going to miss him, but everyone's going to have to step up to fill the void.
This is an RSL team that has sort of embraced the underdog label here. You guys playing like you have nothing to lose. How has that made you stronger? How has it made you better? And how will you use it here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a group that's been together, and we're learning on the go. We got a lot of guys. I think we had 5 or 6 guys have breakout years, and so everybody's just excited. I think a lot of guys are, just naive of where we're at, and they're just ready to give everything and see what we can do.
You're one of the veteran presences on this team. What have you said to the guys about playing in sort of a winner-take-all game like this?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just try and take advantage of this opportunity. We find ourselves with an opportunity to advance. It's a big challenge, but there's no reason why we can't go out and get it done.
Kyle, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.
See ya.
All right, guys, one more look at the SKC lineup. We've already showed you RSL a second ago. SKC came out pretty much as expected. One specific talking point, Diego Rubio in up top. Kyrie Shelton had started the last few games. As we mentioned, Diego Rubio is a little bit more of a selfish forward? Is that a fair word to use, guys?
I mean, he's more goal dangerous.
Goal dangerous. Okay, Kyrie Shelton's more the one to bring his teammates into it. My favorite part about SKC is what we see on the right side of the field here. They've got wonderful zonal rotation where Johnny Russell often tucks in, Graham Zusi gets around him, but also you will sometimes see Graham Zusi tuck central, and Roger Espinoza takes over this space. And we already mentioned overloads earlier in the show. SKC is fantastic at doing overloads. Roger Espinoza, Graham Zusi interchange all games, so keep an eye on that right side of the field. But we can't talk about SKC without talking the center striker dilemma.
Yeah, we can't. Rubio got the call in this one. Thought it might be Kyrie Shelton. He had been the guy getting the confidence there from Peter Vermees. Somebody who's been in the lineup for a long, long time now is Matt Beasler. He's a Kansas City guy, and Susanna caught up with him before this game.
All right, Matt, earlier this week you said the first 30 minutes of leg one, you guys came out, played pretty conservatively. It opened up in the second half. What's going to be the approach starting out here today?
We got to be who we are. All season long, we've been a team that's controlled most games and really played with the ball, and we've been aggressive. So we have to start like that. At the same time, we're going to be smart too. The game is 90 minutes long. We can't be bombing forward and throwing numbers forward in a stupid way. So because Salt Lake's a team that can catch you on the break, and they're a really good team with a lot of quality players. So, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about us today and playing our best.
First home playoff match since 2013. You mentioned it. We've seen RSL go on the road and win with the LAFC result, but it's going to be a pretty incredible atmosphere here today. How are you guys going to draw on that?
It's great. I'm so excited. I can say this. I'd rather be playing here than playing at Salt Lake for this leg. So we have to take advantage of that. I know our fans are looking forward to it. It's been too long. We're happy that we've been able to give them this home game, but hopefully it's not the last one this season.
Okay, non-soccer question a little bit. I know your brother Nick is the opposition today. Yeah. How tough is this for your family? Who do they root for in these situations?
That's a great question. You'd have to ask them. They're probably going to give you the PC answer. but they live in Kansas City, so maybe they're rooting for us. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
All right,
we'll see.
Matt, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's the patriarch of the Beasler family. Looks like he does not have any identification there. No Sporting Kansas City, no Real Salt Lake. Keeping it neutral.
No,
which
RSL just tweeted out a picture. He's got a half and half jersey.
Oh, unzip it. It's too cold there to do that right now. That's pretty cool stuff, though. All right, prediction time. It's almost game time. 3 p.m. Eastern here for this one. Allie, we'll start with you on this game. Sporting Kansas City, Real Salt Lake. Who moves on to the conference championships?
I think Sporting Kansas City has done so well this season. I think they're clear winners.
Okay, there you have Sporting Kansas City. Anybody going to go against that logic? Anybody taking RSL? Putting it out to anybody now?
No.
That probably means in the post-game show we'll be talking about RSL in the conference championships. That's usually what happens.
Did they just sign Dairon Asprilla?
Yeah, well, maybe Shao Plata is going to be the Dairon of this game.
Missing 20 goals and 12 assists between Barrett and Rusnak in this one. That margin just is too tough for them.
That's massive. All right. We got 15 seconds till game time. That means the predictions are going to have to come out on Twitter. You guys get on there, get that done. Follow all of us after the game. We'll be right back here. Audi, MLS Cup Playoff Central, all the highlights, all the analysis, all the interviews. Here's your slate. Enjoy the opener. Sporting KC, RSL. We'll see you later, everybody.
City.